13 May 1969 Tragedy, this is what happened in Borneo. Version 2. Welcome to Declassified Malaysia. This is version 2 of my viral video entitled 13 May 1969 Tragedy, this is what happened in Borneo. In this new version 2 of the same video, the presentation has been improved and new information has been added. However, the completion of version 2 will be released in stages, chapter by chapter. Then, the complete compilation of all chapters and improved version 2 will be released in due time. This video exposes the 13 May 1969 tragedy of the Borneo States of Sabah and Sarawak. What happens in the Borneo States of Sabah and Sarawak during this darkest hour of Malaysia? What is the Borneo States? We are living in the year 2021. It has been 46 years since 1976 that the term Borneo States has been disappeared from the federal constitution. Therefore, it would be appropriate to ensure everybody knows what is the Borneo States, so that everybody understands the constitutional existence of the Borneo States when we are discussing the breach of the federal constitution and various constitutional instruments and agreements concerning what transpired during the 13 May 1969 tragedy. Besides, the constitutional mechanism on how the terms in the Malaysia Agreement 1963 has been inserted into the federal constitution and have the effect of law, will also be given in detail. Here, the constitutional information about the Borneo States is explained in detail. The new Federation of Malaysia was formed on September 16, 1963. According to Article 1 of Malaysia Agreement 1963, the colonies of North Borneo and Sarawak and the state of Singapore shall be federated with the existing states of the Federation of Malaya as the states of Sabah, Sarawak, and Singapore in accordance with the constitutional instruments annexed to this agreement, and the federation shall thereafter be called Malaysia. The question here, what is the constitutional instruments that have been annexed in the Malaysia Agreement 1963, to explain how the existing states of the Federation of Malaya federated with the states of Sabah, Sarawak, and Singapore? To answer this question, we can look at Section 4, Annex A of Malaysia Agreement 1963. Section 4, Annex A of Malaysia Agreement 1963 gives details on the constitutional mechanism on how the colonies of North Borneo, Sabah, and Sarawak federated with the existing states of the Federation of Malaya when a new Federation of Malaysia was formed. In accordance with Section 4, Clause 2, Annex A of Malaysia Agreement 1963, with the heading The Name, States, and Territories of the Federation, Article 1, the states of the Federation shall be: A. The states of Malaya, namely, Johor, Kedah, Kelantan, Malacca, Negri Sembilan, Pahang, Penang, Perak, Perlis, Selangor, and Terengganu, and B. The Borneo States, namely, Sabah and Sarawak, and C. The state of Singapore. Based on Section 4, Clause 2, Annex A of Malaysia Agreement 1963, there are three states of the Federation of Malaysia, namely, States of Malaya, Borneo States, and State of Singapore. Therefore, in accordance with the constitutional instruments annexed in Section 4, Clause 2, B, Annex A of Malaysia Agreement 1963, Borneo States comprises Sabah and Sarawak. But, how did this term in Section 4, Clause 2, Annex A of Malaysia Agreement 1963 have been inserted into the Federal Constitution? Section 4, Annex A of Malaysia Agreement 1963 has been inserted in the Federal Constitution, in accordance with Section 3, Annex A, and the First Schedule of Malaysia Agreement 1963. Section 3 with the heading Sections of Act inserted in Constitution expressed that the Constitution shall be amended as shown in the first schedule to this Act, by inserting as articles of the Constitution in accordance with that schedule the sections of this Act specified in the second column, and those sections shall be read and have effect accordingly. Provided that any article so inserted shall have effect subject to the transitional provisions contained in Part 4 of this Act. Based on the first schedule, insertion of new articles in Constitution, of Malaysia Agreement 1963, the name, states, and territories of the Federation of the former Federal Constitution of the Federation of Malaya will be amended, where Section 4 of the Act is to be inserted as Article 1. In place of the present article. The present Article 1, Clause 2, of the Federal Constitution of Malaya, expressed. The states of the Federation are Johor, Kedah, Kelantan, Negeri Sembilan, Pahang, Perak, Perlis, Selangor and Terengganu, formerly known as the Malay States, and Malacca and Penang, formerly known as the settlements of Malacca and Penang. Therefore, based on Section 3, Annex A, and the first schedule of Malaysia Agreement 1963, the present Article 1, Clause 2, of the Federal Constitution of Malaya, will be amended with Section 4, Clause 2, of the Malaysia Agreement 1963 as followed. The states of the Federation shall be A. The states of Malaya, namely, Johor, Kedah, Kelantan, Malacca, Negeri Sembilan, Pahang, Penang, Perak, Perlis, Selangor and Terengganu, and B. The Borneo States, namely, Sabah and Sarawak, and C. The state of Singapore. Up to this point, we have explained how Article 1 of the former Federal Constitution of the Federation of Malaya will be amended based on Malaysia Agreement 1963. Next, we will see how such an amendment has the effect of law. In line with Article 2 of Malaysia Agreement 1963, the Malaysia Act, number 26 of 1963, was passed in the Parliament of the Federation of Malaya. Article 2 of Malaysia Agreement 1963 expressed. The government of the Federation of Malaya will take such steps as may be appropriate and available to them to secure the enactment by the Parliament of the Federation of Malaya of an act in the form set out in Annex A to this agreement, and that it is brought into operation on August 31, 1963. And the date on which the said act is brought into operation is hereinafter referred to as Malaysia Day. Malaysia Act, number 26 of 1963, gives the effect of the law of the new amended Article 1 in the new Federal Constitution of Malaysia, based on Section 4, Clause 2, Annex A of Malaysia Agreement 1963. Therefore, the new Article 1, Clause 2, of the Federal Constitution of Malaysia as of September 16, 1963, is read as follows. The states of the Federation shall be A. The states of Malaya, namely, Johor, Kedah, Kelantan, Malacca, Negeri Sembilan, Pahang, Penang, Perak, Perlis, Selangor and Terengganu, and B. The Borneo States, namely, Sabah and Sarawak, and C. The state of Singapore. Therefore, the new states of the Federation of Malaysia is the states of Malaya, Borneo States, and state of Singapore. The constitutional unit of the states of Malaya, namely, Johor, Kedah, Kelantan, Malacca, Negeri Sembilan, Pahang, Penang, Perak, Perlis, Selangor, and Terengganu. Meanwhile, the constitutional unit of the Borneo States is Sabah and Sarawak. After the separation of Singapore in 1965, Article 1 was amended based by Act 59/1966, Section 2, in force from August 9, 1965, the date Singapore left Malaysia, by deleting therefrom paragraph C, which read as follows, C, the state of Singapore. After that, the new Article 1, Clause 2, read as follows. The states of the Federation shall be A. The states of Malaya, namely, Johor, Kedah, Kelantan, Malacca, Negeri Sembilan, Pahang, Penang, Perak, Perlis, Selangor and Terengganu, and B. The Borneo States, namely, Sabah and Sarawak. After the separation of Singapore, the states of the Federation that remained are the states of Malaya and the Borneo States. The constitutional unit of the states of Malaya, namely, Johor, Kedah, Kelantan, Malacca, Negri Sembilan, Pahang, Penang, Perak, Perlis, Selangor, and Terengganu. Meanwhile, the constitutional unit of the Borneo States is Sabah and Sarawak. Based on these details, constitutional instruments, before and during the 13 May 1969 tragedy, the Borneo States, namely, Sabah and Sarawak, are one of the states of the Federation of Malaysia. It is the fate of these Borneo states that we will discuss and expose what is happening to them during the turbulence hour of the 13 May 1969 tragedy.